I'm sure I can't be the first person to point this out, but isn't it ironic that the only two Star Wars movies that were weirdly theatrically released involved people trying to rescue Rada the Hutt? So The Mandalorian and Grogu is the first theatrically released live-action Star Wars movie since Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker. After its approximately 7-year hiatus, Star Wars is back in theaters with the follow-up to the 3-season Disney Plus run of The Mandalorian. The film picks up with Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin and his apprentice Grogu, as they are privately contracted to take out warlords of the Imperial Remnant. After completing their most recent mission for Commander Ward, their new mission, if they choose to accept it, is to travel to Nal Hutta to learn the identity and location of a mysterious Imperial by the name of Coin. Only catch is, the Hutt twins want something from Djarin first: the rescue of their nephew and son of Jabba, Rada the Hutt. Hey everyone, I'm the guy with no name. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Real quick, just wanted to say that if you enjoyed this video, show your support by liking and subscribing. That really does go a long way, and I'm getting super close to my goal of 400 subscribers, and yeah, I'm a small channel, so every little bit helps. Appreciate it. So The Mandalorian and Grogu was written by Dave Filoni, Noah Clore, and Jon Favreau, who also directed the film. It stars Pedro Pascal as the voice and occasionally face of Din Djarin, otherwise known as the Mandalorian, Jeremy Allen White as Rada the Hutt, Sigourney Weaver as Colonel Ward, and Steve Blum returning to voice the now New Republic pilot, Garazeb Zeb Orrelios. So I think a question that pretty much a lot of people ask whenever there's a new Star Wars project is there any required homework or studying? And I would say, yes, there is. I think bare minimum, if you've watched season 1 of The Mandalorian, or I guess really any season of The Mandalorian, but especially season 1 at least, where you've been introduced to Din Djarin and to Grogu, and you understand their relationship, how they came together, and why they're still sticking together, then I think you'll be good. I think that'll give you enough background that you'll be fine going into this movie, even if you haven't watched the whole series. But obviously it's preferred if you've watched seasons 1 through 3 of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Also, bonus points, not necessary, but bonus points if you've watched Star Wars The Clone Wars, at least the movie, and Star Wars Rebels, and that way you know Rada the Hutt and you know Zeb, but really it does a great job of introducing them that, you know, there's probably a lot of people seeing the movie that are none the wiser that these characters have been in other stuff. But the plot is not complicated, so it's really not that. There's even an opening, it's not a crawl, but it's stationary text, kind of like how Ahsoka opened, but there's really not much legwork done in regards to explaining Din Djarin and Grogu. I mean, it's kind of a weird random pairing of a Mandalorian bounty hunter and a basically, you know, baby of the Yoda species. Kind of weird that they're somehow together and hanging out and basically have this father-son dynamic going on. All that to say that I wouldn't recommend going into this movie blind. I think you're setting yourself up to not enjoy it. And even if you haven't seen any of it, just, you know, watch 8 episodes of The Mandalorian season 1. It's 20 to 30 minutes an episode. Went by pretty quick for me, so I got a lot of thoughts about this movie, and I'll be honest, some of them might come across as a bit conflicting. I'm kind of confused in certain areas on how I feel, and some of it's gonna be hard to put into words, so I appreciate you bearing with me while I try my best. Basically, to start, once the movie was over and I was walking out of the theater, I think I kind of asked myself, does this movie justify itself as being a theatrically released Star Wars film as opposed to, say, another season of The Mandalorian? And that's a hard question for me to answer. It's not really, to me, a definitive yes or no, which maybe in and of itself is telling. If it's not a definitive yes, then that could imply that it's not justified. You know, if you can't justify its existence, then it's not justified. But I think when you put the pressure on it of whether it's fair or unfair, of it being the first theatrically released Star Wars film in, you know, about 7 years from The Rise of Skywalker, then I think that pushes it over the edge to the no territory, that I don't think this was a good idea for it being the first theatrically released Star Wars film since Rise of Skywalker. I've thought about it more though. I believe I understand where Lucasfilm was coming from. I think they were under the impression that The Mandalorian and Grogu was a safe choice, that the Starfighter movie they're putting together is a bit more of a risk. It's an unknown entity, unknown, time period. Apparently, there's not going to be any characters that are returning. It's going to be basically all new characters. So I think they thought, let's start with the Mandalorian and Grogu. Everyone loves the Mandalorian and Grogu. They know what they're getting with that, and it'll be a fun time, and it'll kind of ease them back into, hey, Star Wars is back on the big screen. But I think they miscalculated. I think they didn't know maybe just how much people did not like season 3 and still talk about that. I think it's kind of a bit unfairly criticized. Season 3 wasn't strong, but I liked the first half quite a bit. I think the second half, there were some episodes that weren't so great. I think the ending as well was kind of underwhelming, at least to me. Still, when I did a rewatch of all the seasons, and I was like, season 3 is better than I remember it, but definitely some flaws for sure. Also, I think they underestimated the optics of taking a streaming show and turning it into a movie. I think a lot of people immediately jumped to the conclusion of, is this just a TV movie? Did you just take season 4 and turn it into a movie? And I can't blame people for feeling that way either. So I guess let's start with the positives first. I mean, for starters, when comparing the movie to the series, you can tell the movie has a larger budget and a larger scope, which I appreciated. If we could see the budget for the series versus the movie, we might be surprised that it's closer than we think, but definitely it's a movie. It doesn't feel like they just took the series and plopped it into theaters. There's a bit of a change, and also there's more spectacle. I don't know if they used the volume in the movie, but it feels like if they did, they used it more sparingly, which is great. If you're not familiar, the volume is a newer piece of technology, and basically dumbing it down, it's this circular room that the actors can stand in, and basically they can project all different types of backgrounds. And I think it was a big investment up front, but Disney definitely and Lucasfilm definitely used it throughout the 3 seasons, and I got an ROI for sure. But there were times where you could tell that the volume was being used all the time, and it felt like every shot was in a room that was circular, that's smaller. There wasn't room for a lot of props and people and stuff, so it got kind of annoying sometimes. So I love that the movie is shot differently and feels bigger, and also on top of that, there's a lot of special effects, CGI, more so than they probably could do in the series. I will say though, and maybe this is just me, but I don't think it is, there were some shots I could tell were 100% CGI, and they didn't look the best. And maybe that's also because I didn't see it in IMAX or Dolby, but still, it felt like it just wasn't quite up to the standards of what a Star Wars film should look like in 2026. I mean, heck, look at the Dune movies. Those movies are incredible. Some of the special effects look 100% real. So we can get there. Also, I feel like the action is the best it's ever been when compared to the series. I mean, I thought there were a lot of action scenes I was super thrilled by, and really, I felt like one of the things that made it better was takes out hordes of enemies, sure, but they just made it ever so slightly more believable, where maybe the placement of the enemies would make it a little more realistic, or certain things that Din does makes it more realistic, or even just, I felt like they didn't over rely on him getting shot and it just pinging off his armor left and right. And the story, it's not amazing or anything, but I thought it was good. I thought it was a decent story. I think it was a good story to tell in movie form. I think this story would not have been a good story to tell in a season. Now, I don't think the story is mind-blowing or groundbreaking or anything like that. I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, because it's pretty much been out there that this movie it was never marketed as the epic conclusion to the Mandalorian and Grogu story. It's still clear that they have stories they want to tell. I'm not giving you spoilers on how it ends and which characters are alive by the end of it, but it's clear that it's not meant to be this epic conclusion, in which case it feels a little more inconsequential because of that. The acting was, just as good as always. I think Pedro Pascal as Mandalorian, especially his voice, I feel like he has a good voice for that character. And we do see his face from time to time, but generally speaking, from what I understand, there's basically 2 stuntmen who play him under the mask. There's a gunslinging expert one and then also martial arts one, and I think they both do incredible work here, as always, as they did in the series. Also, Sigourney Weaver was a welcome addition. She kind of felt like a Princess Leia-esque character, like the way she talked and delivered her lines and stuff. I don't know, just felt kind of, she felt like an old school Star Wars character, which was nice. And then seeing Zeb was great. I loved, you know, the little cameo he had in, I believe it was season 3 of The Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, seeing him as an actual character who does more than just say a few lines, that was great. And then Rada the Hutt was a surprise for me, a surprise standout. I was expecting to be annoyed by him. Seeing shots of him in the trailer, he looked like, oh, that looks like kind of, I mean, it was cool finding out it's Rada the Hutt. We were wondering where he went this whole time. Been like what? I mean, Clone Wars movie came out to 2008, so what, like, I mean, 15 plus year mystery of where he went. But he looked like he was gonna be annoying, and I'm happy to report he's not annoying. I don't think anyone's gonna find him that annoying. Grogu is great. I feel like the puppeteering is top notch here. I think there were a couple shaky moments with the puppet in the series, but none here. I thought he did awesome. I thought the Babu Frick type guys also looked great to me. I love them. The humor also very Star Wars like humor, and no Marvel MCU type humor. Even if you like that stuff, I don't think it belongs in Star Wars. So I think the best way to put it is, if you watch Mandalorian seasons 1 through 3 and you skip the movie and then say they do a season 4, I don't think you're gonna be lost much at all. The characters of the Mandalorian and Grogu don't change too much. They do change some. I'm not going to say there's no character development, but there's not a lot of character development between the beginning and end. I think the movie isn't going to do very well, partially because of a botched marketing campaign. I feel like their marketing sucked. I didn't think any of the trailers looked good until the final trailer, which is too late, especially coming off of a weak season 3 that a lot of people didn't like. So if I could boil all this down, I would say that, are you going to enjoy this movie? It all depends on your expectations. Because if you go into this going, man, Star Wars has been out of theaters for 7-ish years, and you know, this whole time, that must mean they've been spending those years trying to come up with the best Star Wars movie to come back with a bang in theaters. No, you're going to be disappointed, because that's not what this is. This is like I said, it's an entertaining movie. It's a fun movie. If you go into this going, hey, I like The Mandalorian, I'm just looking for more Mandalorian and Grogu, then you're going to be pleased. I mean, this is not, I think it's a step up from the series. So kind of, I think the litmus test overall is, did you like The Mandalorian? Did you like the show? Because if you did, then I think you're gonna like the movie. If you didn't, or you thought, I don't know, I'm kind of hoping that this, you know, The Mandalorian and Grogu is like 10 times better than the show, no, that's also probably not going to be the case for for you. But now comes the hard part. What would I rate The Mandalorian and Grogu? I really think it's almost like right in between good and great, you know, so True Grit versus good. And I don't know, I think that given all the baggage around it, given all the atmosphere, and given that, like I said, it's not very consequential at the end of the day, I think that has to move it to good. I got so close to rating it great, though. I mean, it was super close. As director Krennic would say, we were this close. But no, really, I mean, I'm done with my thoughts. Now I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you've seen The Mandalorian and Grogu yet, if you plan to or not, and if so, what did you think about it? I'm really, really interested in the comments that I get, because I could see a wide range of different opinions on this. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out my review of season 1 of Maul Shadow Lord. This is the guy with no name, signing off.